What's your overall takeaway on this plan?
The letter signed by the 50 people about global security. Renegotiating trade agreements indicates a lack of sophistication about trade agreements. Trade agreements take anywhere from 5 to 15 years to negotiate. And kind of like saying we're not going to support our NATO partners if they don't pay their bills. America is not a big enough market for Americans to become rich off of. So the idea is we have to sell our products and services all over the world. Other markets, need to be prosperous in order to buy our products, so we need them to be able to sell their goods, and they won't let our goods in if we don't allow them to sell their goods and services to us. So there's always a delicate balance, and Donald Trump's more sophisticated argument, if he were to make it, were to say we're exporting more than we're importing, and he thinks that's a problem. Now, there's academic debate as to whether that is actually a problem, but that's what he's trying to say. Mm-hmm. To suggest that you get rid of this part altogether, you don't import anything, you make everything yourself and you export it to everybody else, and they'll willingly buy it even though you don't let their products into the country. Again, it's naive, it's unsophisticated. It feels nice, it sounds interesting, it won't happen.
Katrina, what's your reaction to that? You heard what Ali had to say. Why are you so certain that he's going to be better with the economy to help to make America great again, so to speak?
What Donald Trump is proposing is supply-side economics, which worked for Ronald Reagan. During Ronald Reagan's years, we experienced 4.3% on average of GDP growth. During Obama's administration, he has yet to actually reach 3% of GDP growth. So he is slated, if he continues, to be the first president in history which hasn't had at least 3% GDP growth during his presidency. So that in itself tells you that there's an issue with the current administration. And Hillary Clinton's proposal, I should say, is to continue on that path. So she hasn't really told us what she's going to do differently. She wants to continue
Katrina,
what Obama's already started.
Katrina, do you know the statistics for what Canada's economic growth is, for what Europe's economic growth is? Do you know how China has slowed down in economic growth, and India? Do you know the BRICS, which we used to talk about? They're all in big trouble. Do you think President Obama somehow single-handedly slowed growth in America, but the rest of the world just wanted to follow suit to be like Americans?
No, but what I'm talking about is during the entire presidency. So obviously we're experiencing a lot of difficulties with various different countries throughout the world. Our world is a mess. I'll be the first to admit that. But throughout the entire presidency, you didn't have the difficulties that you have now. Another thing is that during his speech today,
what does that mean exactly?
Bernie
You didn't have the difficulties that you have now. What does that mean? You didn't have the difficulties you have now. You've seen the job creation numbers, right? Mitt Romney said he will create 250,000 jobs a month. We've well exceeded that.
Yeah. So hang on. I think what Ali is saying here is that we're in a global recession, and you can't expect America to operate outside of a global recession.
But Don, we haven't been in a global recession the entire Obama administration. I mean, come on. That's just not right. Another thing is that Bernie actually is tweeting while Donald Trump is giving his speech about the economic policy plans that he has, and he's tweeting that Donald Trump is basically just making these tax cuts for the rich, and that is absolutely not the case. And the Democrats are known for creating warfare between the rich and the poor, because it's no surprise, if you divide, you conquer, and there's more poor people than there is rich people, so they get more votes that way. I mean, their strategy to me is just, it's an old strategy and they haven't really proposed anything new.
Specifically on tax.
There's a lot of material here to conquer. Let me just take the issue of growth, because I think it's important that people understand this. To suggest that we haven't had slow growth for the entire presidency, the biggest economies in the world, Europe, China, the fastest growing economies in the world, China and India, and the BRICS, which when this presidency began, were these hot engines of growth. Year after year. There is no more BRICS. They've collapsed. India is slowing. China is slowing. Europe is still battling recession. You know, if you put your money in a bank in Europe, you lose money. They have negative interest rates in Europe. So, Katrina, you're really smart. I don't know where you're coming up with these things from. In fact, the world is as dangerous a place as it was 8 years ago economically. No, go ahead.
Okay, so he's the first president in history that has never experienced at least 3% GDP growth, and you're saying that that's because the world is disastrous right now. So throughout our history, we've never had trying times. It doesn't make any sense. I understand what you're saying, that we're experiencing a lot of difficulties in the universe right now.
Right.
But
I'm not disputing that statistic. It's an interesting one. I don't know what it's supposed to mean to me. I may be the first economic journalist who didn't have a single hair on his head. I don't know what the relevance is of that statement. The whole world is a different place than it was. This comparison to Ronald Reagan, it's very interesting. The entire world was a different place when Ronald Reagan was president than he is today. What's the argument? That John McCain or Mitt Romney would have done a better job with the economy? Look at the jobs that have been created. I'm not here to defend President Obama or Hillary Clinton. I just don't understand what the point of the discussion is. No one else in the world, no industrial country has achieved outsized growth during this last 8 years. America is not an outlier.
Right, but I'm not just comparing him to Ronald Reagan. I'm comparing him to every single other president in history. And
but compare him to the rest of the world.
On this point, you know. But I'm comparing him to every single president that has ever, served the United States of America. So
but that's really not an apples to apples
comparison. I understand what you're saying, that we're going through trying times.
You could say this in England, or in Canada, or in Germany, or in China. You can use. Okay. The point is, we're not comparing ourselves to 40 years ago. Compare America to any country. You choose any one you want. And tell me how America has fared compared to that other country over the last 9 years. I think that's a more relevant comparison.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you believe that Obama and Hillary's path towards socialism is the answer for the United States of America? Because that's where they're headed.
I mean, I dispute the premise. I don't know what the path towards socialism is.
By taking away from... You're taking away from your premise. The premise is... Nope. The premise is taken away from the rich to give to the poor. I mean, that's not the American dream. The American dream is incentivizing people to actually work hard, to produce, and to actually become successful through hard work. That's what Donald Trump is thinking about these days.
Totally agree with that. I agree with Katrina on this one. But isn't that what you do? Do we not have more startups in America? Do we not see the world's leaders and wealthy people sending their kids to America for their educations? Is Silicon Valley not the single hottest place on earth to actually start a business?
Yeah, I've got to run. Thank you.
But let me tell you something. As a small business owner,
you can go, Don. Let us continue.
Nowadays.
Yeah, I'll let you guys continue to talk. I let the experts. I let you have your conversation. Ali, a very well-respected global affairs economist, and also Katrina, a luxury real estate specialist and the winner of the first season of Apprentice. Thank you very much. I appreciate both of you. Just ahead, Donald.